Hi, I'm Sarah with Strong Balance Solutions, and this is Core Stability. We're going to go over some different hip mobility exercises today. Okay, so grab a mat, take your shoes off. When we did our class Friday of last week, I forgot to hit record. So I am recording this on Monday, the following Monday. I don't know what the date is. And I'm just going to go over the stuff that we did with the hip openers because I feel like that was very valuable information. So these are some different exercises to open your hips and work on the strength of some of those small muscles that create internal and external rotation. Okay, so we're going to start laying on our back. We're going to skip the core stuff today and just open the hips. So one of my favorite hip openers is just bringing one knee in and taking one leg out flat on the floor. Pretending like someone is standing on this leg, creating length. If this doesn't give you a stretch through the front of your leg, you can do this sitting on your bed and you roll back onto your bed and you let this extended leg hang off the edge of the bed. And that will open up even more into your hip flexor. You can also think about pulling the belly button down towards the floor. And switch. When you do this move, try not to jack one hip up, right? Thinking about keeping those hip bones in alignment. Thinking about keeping the legs square so they're on railroad tracks. And slide that extended leg in, feeling that when we bring the knees in, this is a much safer position than when they're out extended. Just one hand on each knee and just do little circles apart from each other and then back together. Can be really small, right? Feeling if you can kind of move your feet even at all and feel how those hips are moving. If you wanted, you could have a pillow under your head for this. Be fine. Put one foot on the ground, take your hands, interlace your fingers behind the hamstring. We're going to start with this foot flexed, and as we lift it, we're going to point it. This is more about the hamstrings, but if you imagine this line, right, of energy, this line of action on our posterior body, so going all the way from your head down to your heel, loosening up. And switch sides. Also kind of fires up the quad a little bit. Keep the arms straight, or again, if you need a pillow, that's fine. You want to be able to not have your knee way in here. You want to get it kind of as far away from your body as you can. That takes out some of the work going on in the quad. So starting with the foot flexed, pointing it as you come up, just seeing how straight the leg can get. So you can see I'm tight and not quite coming to that full extension, which is fine. Definitely feeling a connection through the low back into the hamstring. Okay. To intensify that same movement, we'll bring it here and start with the toe pointed, and then as you lift, you're going to flex. And it's like the toe is driving over the nose. This is going to get a little bit deeper into the hamstring. Also just helps us to feel how the knee is tracking. Hold it for a second. And then you can take the same leg and you're just going to bring it across the body just a little bit. Don't let the hip lift off. So it's thinking about wherever there's an extension, that foot is extended up towards the corner of my wall ceiling, and my hip is rooted down into the ground. So I'm trying to get a stretch through my IT band, or from your ilium to your tibia, the back side, kind of the outside. We'll do that same stretch with the other side, starting with the pointed. Flexing, it's kind of like the toe is driving over the nose. Finding that kind of balance between fluidity and a little bit of tension. Notice your face, keep your face relaxed. If you feel like your face is clenching up, then you're probably overdoing it. See if you can kind of come back into the breath. And then here we'll hold it. So where you feel that hamstring stretch, hold it. And then slightly take that over to the side. Showed a lot of you the same exercises using a strap. It's a helpful tool. And bring it back to the center. Hands to the side and just a little bit of rock from side to side. Now we're going to go all the way over. Now if a twist is hard for you, then you kind of I'm going to twist to my right side, and I'm going to let my left shoulder come off of the ground. So almost my whole body comes to the side. And then from here, I try to separate at the waist and come into the stretch. And bring it back to the center. And as you take it to the other side, again, same thing. Twisting is hard for me. I want to make sure that my sacrum is staying square and I'm separating from the upper and lower body at the waist. And so that's where I'm getting this pectoral stretch. And again, if you want to think about moving as a plank and not like a disjointed caterpillar, right? You can come all the way to the side. Think about moving the plank. The whole thing moves to the center. Take the feet wide apart on your mat, about the same width as your mat if you're in the middle of your mat. And then here, let both legs fall. This is going to start to get us into the internal, external hip rotation, and should also give you a nice pull through the leg. It's like someone is pulling my knee away from my head. And back to the center, and then off to the other side. So the feet stay far apart, getting a nice stretch through the elongation of that hip. My butt does lift off the ground just a little bit. And bring it back to the center. And you can push yourself up to sitting, or you can kind of roll to your side and push your hand into the ground and bring you up to sitting. And that's going to kind of naturally put you into this next position that we're going to spend most of our time in today, which is going to be what we're going to call a hip box. So right now I'm in this hip box situation with my left leg forward. And then from there, I want you to take it to the center. The center, hands are behind you, and I want you to feel the chest lift, like you're getting a nice stretch through your groin. So don't let your knees sink in. Try to keep your knees wide, lifting the chest. Nice groin stretch. And then we're going to find that hip box, same thing, on the right side. So just kind of feeling that position here for a second, seeing if you can even just, be in this position. What is it like today? We're going to go to the center. I'm going to pick up the right hand and bring it to that left hip box. This time I'm going for almost that 90, 90, 90 right? 90 at the knee, 90 at the groin, 90 at the back knee. This hand comes back to the ground. We're going to lift the left arm up and let both knees fall to the right. So this is going to be a big part of our movement today. Okay, so now that we're here, we're going to come into this 90-90-90 position. You can use your yoga mat. It's pretty nice. You can take the front of your shin and make it parallel with the front of your mat, and you take the side of your leg and put it right up against the side. Front of the quad in line with the front of the mat, and then the back leg in line with the edge of your mat. Then from here, we're going to come into a piriformis stretch. So we're going to let the body hinge forward, and I'm not letting my chest drop. It kind of takes it out as I try to keep a long spine and hinge forward over that hip. It's like someone took this knee and kind of hammered this hip back, right? So I'm trying to create some space, just coming into this hinge. Some people, one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram is Doc Gin Fit, and she says to hold this for about 2 minutes, but I've met a lot of my clients, which are skiers and climbers and bikers, and they're hard pressed to hold something for 2 minutes. So 2 minutes is better, but any minutes is good, right? You're just going to let yourself come out of that hinge a little bit, and then one more time, dropping the chest forward. You start moving the hand forward, a little more stretch. And bring it up. We're going to come through the groin stretch and off to the other side. Again, you can set yourself up in that 90-90-90 position. Think about lifting the belly and then taking your belly button towards that front leg, hinging forward, and allowing the spine to stay long, chest lifted. Feeling like that hip is really rooting back as the chest leans forward, making more space in the hip joint. Feeling that when you bow the head, it almost kind of breaks this hinge that we're trying to increase the mobility of. You're going to find in these exercises that it's very different from one side to the other. This side's much tighter for me. That's usually the case, most of us. Kind of hinge out of it a little bit. Big breath in through the nose, exhale. And bring it back up. And feel yourself take the hand behind you, come through your groin stretch, and you see the butt kind of slides back a little bit, and we'll come to this side. Now, if you can't quite hold the 90-90-90, it's okay to have a little bit of a smaller angles, right? So that heel comes a little bit closer to the knee for this next exercise. And here we're just going to come up tall and feel, can we rotate? So you're going to take your belly button, point it towards the front knee, and then towards the back. You can leave the hand down, trying to think about really keeping your body up on top of your butt. For more challenge, you can lift both arms up. Gentle twist. do the same thing on the other side. Again, hands come back, you come back through your groin stretch, work it onto the right side. And first of all, it's like, can I lift up my body tall on top of my butt, which you can feel roots this knee back and roots this hip in and creates more of a crease here. That's the internal hip rotation that we're talking about. The right leg is doing that external hip rotation here. So you might start by leaving this hand on the ground behind and just twisting in the torso. I mentioned on Friday that if this is your first time ever doing this, you might feel like it's a very awkward movement, but it's really amazing how with a little bit of practice and muscle memory comes into play. We really figure out how to move better in our hip flexors. Harder for me on this side. Okay, hands come behind, open through your groin stretch, come to the other side. Okay, this time, again, you can leave the hands on the ground if you want. You can have them up, obviously more challenge there. A little bit of weight on the hands, you're kind of pushing into this backhand and thinking about that helping you to get your body up on top of the glutes. This time as we twist, and you can twist or not, we're going to try to lift this back knee. So it's a lift and down. 1, 2, 3. Trying not to collapse as you lift the leg. Less is more. If you feel like you're about to cramp right here, you're probably doing it right. I was counting, but then I stopped. 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Open up through the groin. Come to this side. Okay. On my right side, trying to figure out how to get my body up on top of my seat. And then here I'm turning and I'm lifting that left knee. Trying not to collapse when I lift, right? Trying to stay tall through my core. Really using this whole hip complex to lift. Good, bringing it through the center and coming back to the first side. Now this, we're gonna take our hip box, we're gonna use the right arm, and we're gonna lift and extend, and the hip is extending, and it's almost like you're taking your belly button towards this front heel or towards the camera in this case, right? So not just forwards over the front leg, but kind of at a diagonal. And then when you come back, feeling that hip reinsert into that diagonal space. 2, 3. We'll do the same thing to the other side. Coming into our hip box, finding that tall length, using the left arm, lifting through this left hip. One more. Good work. Then we're going to bring it to the center, and this is going to be our challenge now. Feeling a little bit more open in the hips. We're going to just move from one side to the other side. And then the trick, the challenge is, can you eventually work to be able to do that with no hands and without collapsing through your middle? You're going to do a butt scoop forward as you work this move. Right, if your hands are back, starting to get less on the hands, starting to move the body more upright and forward. Okay, so that's what we're working towards. All right, enough of that. Come back down to laying on your back. One hand on each knee. Just feel, can you move your feet? How's that even feel, right? Move the knees. And then just small circles. So this is all about hip mobility. Internal and external rotation. Piriformis stretch. Good. Bring the feet to the ground. I like to take my hands and kind of sneak them under my sides of my glutes a little bit to give some support. And then soles of the feet come together, and you're just going to let the knees open into like a diamond shape and have a lay down here. Big part of all of this work is breathing. As you are in this open position, you can inhale through the nose, right all the way down into the belly. And as you exhale, feeling those muscles that are your abdominal muscles kind of contract in towards the floor. So basically, send that breath all the way to those tight hip flexors. Just going to show you two more stretches. Again, you can use a pillow, a foam roller, a strap. I've done a lot of different ways to modify this, but a piriformis stretch is going to be that figure four shape. You can just play with letting it open and close and kind of finding where that knee can be open and your hips can be in a line. I kind of have to pick my shoulders up and my foot up. You interlace your fingers around the leg and then bring yourself back down towards relaxing the shoulders again. Having a pillow is totally fine in this position if it makes it easier. We're trying to get into that left glute here. And switch sides. This is basically the same stretch we did in the 90-90-90 position. Different side, different story. You don't want to feel like your shoulders are tight, your head is reaching down, so that sometimes the pillow is helpful, or using a strap if you can't quite reach the hands around the leg. And bring it down. And I just want to show you that same stretch, we can put one hand on each knee, take the knees as close together as you can, so there's no separation between your knees, so there's no big diamond open space here. Trying to bring the knees as close as you can, one hand on each knee, feet come far apart from each other, and then pull that in towards your chest. So this, rather than working the piriformis, is working the glute med. Once you kind of know this position, you can kind of drop the back foot out and just use the one. So you support the knee with one hand, pulling same knee to same shoulder, and then pull the heel, give it a little bit of a torque, and pull your shin towards the opposite shoulder. Do that same thing on the other side. So again, tight cross, quads are tight together, one hand on each knee, and the feet go far apart. This is as close as pretzel-y as we get, and pull that in towards the chest. Now, once you know that position, you can let the one leg relax and take same knee towards same shoulder, supporting it with the hand. If you can reach the heel, awesome. And then you're going to take your shin towards the opposite shoulder, trying to keep the hips in line with each other. So don't ever really let one jack up towards your ribcage. Okay. Shavasana, bring it down, take the heels to the ground. Really plant your heels on the ground for this exercise. Arms come out, just nice and relaxed. Heels planted, and then you take your toes and you flex your feet and point your toes. Point your toes, flex your feet. And that just kind of gives your butt almost like a wiggle, like a movement up and down on the floor. Bringing some energy into those hips that we really just worked. And exhale and let yourself flop into Shavasana. Finding gratitude for that root chakra that we've been in today. Gratitude for the mobility of our hips. Gratitude for that ability to look into some of the limiters in our hips. Thankful that we found them and we can approach them through strengthening, flexibility, mobility, stability, my favorite word. All right, wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingers, come back to life. If it were my ideal, I would hold that Shavasana for quite a bit longer. But for the sake of the time of the video, we will end it sooner. Play with, sitting cross-legged if you can. If you can't, playing with sitting in this diamond shape and working on this position. All right, so that's core stability today, working on some of those hip box exercises, eventually being able to move and do all of that without your hands. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.